Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Had a nice Saturday. Let's take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin for the day. So, like I told you guys, basically I kind of predicted that we were going to have a boring Saturday, which we did. Kind of had a slow droop to the downside. We did get a tweezer top here. I wasn't expecting a lot of price movement, right? I warned you guys that just go enjoy your Saturday. We're probably not going to see too much price action, and sure enough, that was what it was. You can basically see, the past 12 hours kind of stayed within a range between 77,555 and 76,761. So basically, within about less than $1,000, you're basically only down $206 from when the candle opened. So really not that much of a range, right? We are using 77,421 as resistance, like I told you guys might happen. So where do we go from here, right? And really, what it comes down to, in my opinion, is we still gotta visit this top of this order block at the very least, I would say, if not this 75,879 level to retest it. This is what I'm targeting still. I don't think that there's anything else to really talk about or look at other than these two levels right here. Just know that there is a potential if we do roll over and the daily is a tweezer top, we can get down further in here. I want this to be realistic to the point where, in order to trend up, sometimes you have to trend down as well. And we went up straight for multiple days, right? I want you to keep that in mind. So even if we visit the low 70s, that can still be extremely bullish, even if we were to touch the top of this order block, right? Because that would just give us a sign that we're basically trending down before we trend up. So, I want you guys to know that there's a potential that we could get into the low 73s or 72s or even 71K region and still be extremely bullish, okay? We're way above all of our moving averages on the daily. As long as we keep 68,985, we're going to stay bullish. I mean, you could, again, and I've drawn this out earlier, you can just kind of flag this out, right? And we could just kind of stay in this for a couple days and then blast off, right? We don't even have to get that low. So just be aware that this could be realistic, right? This whole movement down, getting into the mid to low 70s is still a very bullish sign for us. Even if we were to get that massive drop, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 even. As long as we keep 68,000, we're going to be bullish, okay? All right, taking a look at the 4-hour, we're getting the 21 to come into price action. So we are consolidating nicely and sideways as well. Taking a look at the 1-hour, one thing I did notice is that I believe you hit a couple of 786 levels. You do have a double bottom right here. But if you take, for example, that low to this high right here, you basically hit this 786 perfectly. So there's a potential that you could get a move up if it wanted to. This could make your swing low right here on the hourly, and then you get that move to the upside. Now, how far that goes is a bigger question. I do think that there's a potential that we could possibly take out this double top, but there's a lot of resistance here. I'm more so thinking we're going to get to maybe 77,700. That's kind of where I've been targeting. So we might, make some sort of bearish 786. This could kind of reverse. Let's see where that would be at here if I were to pull this all the way down. So if you made a bearish 786, it would be around 78,114, it looks like. If you took from this bottom, maybe from this low right here. Yeah, 78,100 is what it looks like that we could get to. So just know that there's a potential if we do get a pump at the beginning of this candle through the night, we could basically make a bearish 786 retracement and then drop from there. So that kind of would give you somewhat of a head and shoulders type pattern. So let me see if I can pull up my paintbrush here. I always lose it. I don't know why. But you're looking at some sort of head and shoulders right here. Okay, that's basically, actually it would be kind of a higher shoulder, sorry. So it'd kind of be up here somewhere, and then you would drop, okay? Now, that's going to be your bearish scenario, right? And that would take you down probably into this range, this order block right here. Your bullish scenario is obviously going to getting that pump up and then breaking that bearish 786 around 78, 116-ish area, I think I said. So that would be your bullish case, is getting above 78,116 and then moving your way up, taking out this double top and possibly reaching for this high up here that we created locally. And obviously getting into like the 80,500-ish area like we've been talking about. So that's kind of your bullish case scenario. I'm more so leaning towards the bearish case, especially because we are at the end of the week. A really good sign is that we really haven't given up too much of the move. So yes, we did make a high at 79,576. We dropped down almost 3,000, about $2,000 from there. But we really didn't give up, our gigantic move that we had this week, right? I mean, we were in the lower, or actually mid 60s at the beginning of the week, and we just went straight up, above, high 70s basically. So we're doing really good as far as bullish momentum goes, right? This is a really nice consolidation. It's giving you a nice kind of bearish pattern, which a lot of people are going to short. So that does make me wonder if whether or not we're going to pump sooner rather than later. They're 15. Obviously, you're kind of getting that bounce off of the 200, but it's not a strong bounce. So it is alluding to the fact that it'll probably roll over, in my opinion. If it does, you'd be basically targeting, the 20-minute 200, which is around 75,547. So just some levels for you guys to watch for the night. Like I said, 78, I'll put it up here. 78, it was around 78, 114-ish, I believe. Yeah, something like that. Right around there is going to be your bearish 786 level. We'll measure it to double check and make sure here. Yeah, that's pretty much perfect. So I basically memorized that. Yeah, 78, 114 would be your bearish 786. You get above there and you consolidate. That is going to give you a potential bullish move, taking out this double top at the very least. And then obviously 77,421 is going to be your point of resistance locally. You haven't been able to really close above there on some of the bigger, I would say bigger micro time frames. So like your 20, your 30, your hourly, right? We haven't really been able to get a really decent close up there. And then obviously, guys, to the downside, like I mentioned, you're going to be looking at 76,200-ish, around 76,000 to 76,200 area, and potentially down to 75,879 for right now. Like I said, there's a potential that we break that. We get into this area, 74,808, and then possibly even down here. But I would be targeting the upper area of this order block for right now. All right, guys, that being said, that is what I'm seeing as far as levels go. Let's go ahead and dive into liquidity, see where that's at here. So let me go ahead and pull up my group that I got going on. All right, so taking a look at liquidity, let me go ahead and check off some. Yeah, it's going to be really scarce as far as to the downside. So I'm going to probably have to really zoom in here. But you can see that we can get down to about 75,300-ish area probably if it wanted to, all the way through 74,415, which would basically be about the middle of that order block. So it is kind of showing that there is some liquidity around there. Now, whether or not we get that low is a bigger question, but just know that there is some down into the 74K-ish range. Now, obviously, there is some more red liquidity to the upside. If we do get that move up, take out some of these tops, your first target is going to be within that 80,000, low 80,000 range, all the way up to about 80,338, it looks like. And if you're able to get above there, you'd basically be looking at probably about 82,807, if not, and I believe that does take out a double top that was on the macro, and if not, 83,189, somewhere in there, I would target for now if we get above the 80,500-ish area. And then, like I said, obviously to the downside, potentially targeting, that 76K, and if we lose that 75,000-ish area to 74,480. Let's go ahead and take a look at your 1 hour, see where we are with that. So your 1 hour is showing liquidity on both sides, which kind of makes it a little bit more confusing, right, for us to kind of read. My personal opinion is that, obviously if we go to the downside, we're going to hit 76K, could potentially get a bounce there to take out this pull up here, around 77,871, it looks like. So I would be targeting that, if we were to get the move down. Now, if we're going to get the move up first, that's when I would potentially target down here. But the only problem is, if we do get the move up first for this daily candle, we could basically fall all the way through down into the 72K-ish range. I just want you to be aware of that. So it is going to be, a better look for the bulls to get the drop first, right? Taking out down to 76 and then moving up to 78 and figuring out what we're going to do from there, rather than getting the pump up to 78 and then potentially dropping all the way down into 72,000. Now, you could potentially, take advantage of either move. Just be aware that it's going to be a very high-risk trade no matter what. I would say definitely if you won some this week, you might want to use a lesser position size. So just kind of keep that in mind. But be aware of the risk, right? If we pump up first, just be aware that there's a good potential that we're going to get a bearish 786 and then we're going to just drop all the way down here. But if we dump first, down into 76,000, there's a potential we get a reversal, at least to 78, if not even higher, maybe up to here. By that time, there might be a bridge. So I am expecting a bridge to either fill in on either side, depending on what direction we go in first, for people to start chasing price action. But just be aware of some of those levels, okay, guys? And then when it comes to, obviously, actually, you know what? Let me check one more time frame. Let's check the 15 before I move on to the order book. So your 15, like we mentioned, is about to lose that 200 MA. It is alluding to the fact that you're going to drop at least to 76,000 if you were to do that. I was hoping that we would drop sooner rather than later so we wouldn't lose this 200 MA, but it does look like whether it be the 100X or the 50X, we are going to drop into the 76K region at least. We could get the bounce. Like I said, we could come up here, take out 78,000. That might be a decent place to short. I'll leave that up to you guys. Never financial advice. But you could potentially short that, taking out this double top, and then, riding this down, who knows how far, even down to 72,000 area. I would probably target around 72.5-ish, to be on the safe side. Basically taking out all of this, right? All right, so that being said, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at your order book, see what's happening there. So your order book is showing some orders to the upside, right? We have some orders about to 78,000. Quite a few million, it looks like. To the downside, you do have more. So 76.3 is going to be your first sweet spot, around 76,300. You do have a double order here around 75,575 to 75,500. So this will be acting potentially as support for right now, since it's within basically a $75 range. That would act as your support, and if you were to breach that, you'd basically be assuming that you would come down here to about 74,650-ish area to test this support. Just be aware that there are orders starting to form even below that into the 73-ish range. So there are more orders to the downside, right? And usually, that does mean that we're probably going to get a dump sooner rather than later. Again, like I said, maybe, a good opportunity is if we do get the pump at the beginning of this daily candle, we basically can potentially short, but just know it's going to be a very high risk short, and just be aware of the risk, right? I would use a very low position size. Same with longing, though. If you get down here, it's catching a falling knife either way. So either a rising knife or a falling knife. So just be aware that either way is going to be a dangerous move. It can be definitely a profitable move, but just play it smart is what I would say. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at the simple map finally, see where we're looking at with our levels. So taking a look at our simple map, to the upside, you're going to have some resistance. It looks like around 77,640 to 77,730 or 77,700 would be your first levels to the upside. You get above there, you'd be looking at about 78,240 to 78,420, and then basically to about 78,840. So those are all potential areas to the upside. To the downside, some support areas are going to be 76,620 to 76,470. You lose 76,470. You're looking at about 76,140 to 75,960. So again, this is what I'm targeting still to the downside. And then to the upside, you're looking at basically, I think, what was the level? I forget. It was 77,420 is going to be your first area, but it was around 78,114. So 78,114 would be your other area, which is right around here. So basically getting up to this point would be where I would be targeting for us to possibly get that reversal back down. So taking out the last bit of 100x liquidity, basically. Now, with your swing time frames, let's take a look and see what I'm seeing there as far as support and resistance zones. You're looking at 76,620 for a support zone, followed by 76,470, and then, like I said, the target I'm looking for along, potentially from 76,140 to 75,960. One thing I will tell you guys is I'm only looking for a long here if we dump first. If we pump first, this to me goes out the window, because then you're going to start building more liquidity to the downside for us to kind of get that follow through. So I'm only going to look for a long if we, basically dump first and we don't get a pump first. Now, if we get a pump first, I'm going to possibly look for a short. It's just going to be a very high risk short. And that's going to be, like I said, guys, around 78,120, taking out the last bit of 25x here. But again, to the upside, you have 77,640 as an area of resistance, 77,700, and then to about 78,120 to 78,330 before you get basically all the way over to 78,840 as your final resistance point before you can keep moving up. That being said, guys, that is what I have for you for this evening. I hope you guys have are having a wonderful weekend, and we'll have a great Sunday tomorrow. Honestly, guys, whenever you have expensive weeks, like I said, take the weekend for a breather. Right? You don't necessarily have to trade. The things that I'm talking about are very high risk trades. Keep that in mind. So just be aware that these are high risk trades. They might not go anywhere. If you made enough during the week, don't feel like you have to trade every day. This is just something, these are ideas that I'm putting out there as potential levels that you could possibly follow as support and resistance levels. As usual, though, if you guys want to use TradingDifferent and its tools, feel free to use my code Sean to help you with your trading. TradingDifferent.com/code/Sean to get 10% off your order and get access to their amazing tool suite that I use every single day to help me identify levels to help me with my trading style. All right, guys, that being said, that is what I have for you for this evening. I hope you all are relaxing, having a wonderful weekend after an amazing week that we had, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care.